Park.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly, yeah. So that was my first exposure to Caspar Hauser's mystery. So it's a good way to make a living, though, just like picking up stuff like this and spinning really lurid tales out of it and putting it in these books and selling them and making money.
Well, that's going to be my next side job.
That's kind of what we're going to do here when we start getting advertisers. So anyway, so here's the story as it happened. Briefly, in May 1828, a boy of approximately 16 years old appears in the streets of Nuremberg, Germany. He had a letter with him addressed to the captain of the 4th Squadron of the 6th Cavalry Regiment, Captain von Wessening. And he was taken to this captain by a shoemaker who happened to spot him on the streets. And apparently, according to legend, Caspar Hauser was walking unsteadily, almost as if drunk. And so the shoemaker takes an interest in him, and when he walks up to him, he hands this letter to him, and the letter is addressed to the captain. He is taken by the shoemaker to meet the captain, who is apparently not at home at the moment. So the servants have them wait out in the garden, and they give them some food, which includes sausage and beer, which Caspar spits out as if he's never... I know, exactly.
Beer and sausage is awesome.
I know. As if he has never had these things before, but eventually he does eat some bread and water. And eats them as if he's quite hungry. Well, eventually, when the captain comes home and gets to read this letter, the letter says, quote, "From the Bavarian border, the place is unnamed. The author said the boy was given into his custody as an infant on 7 October 1812. He instructed him in reading, writing, and Christian religion, but never let him take, quote, a single step out of my house," unquote. The letter stated the boy would now like to be a cavalryman, as his father was, and invited the captain either to take him in or to hang him.
Oh, that's nice.
Fatherly, really fatherly.
Yes.
Yeah, he actually, this was actually not the father of the child. The father, this was somebody apparently who supposedly was just a day laborer or something and didn't have a lot of cash laying around. The infant was given to him by supposedly Caspar's mother, and the father had actually, apparently, according to her in this letter, been in this cavalry infantry, and so the intention is that he should be raised to the age of 17 or 16 or whatever the proper age is, and then become a soldier in his cavalry. So anyway, so he came with 2 letters. There was this one, and there was another one, supposedly from his mother to the caretaker who wrote the other letter. It said his name was Caspar, and he was born on April 30th, 1812, and his father, a cavalryman of the 6th Regiment, was dead. At this point, he is taken into custody and put in what's called the Westner Gate Tower in care of a jailer. And so he essentially is being watched over by this guy and his family and his kids, and he is exhibiting some strange behaviors. And later on, he wound up writing his own autobiography, in which he claimed that he had been kept in a hole in the ground, which was about 2 meters wide by 1.5 meters wide by 1.5 meters tall.
So convert that to feet. That's 3 foot by 6 foot?
No, it's about 6 feet by about 6 feet by about 4 or 5 feet by about 5 feet tall, with a straw mat to sleep on.
Okay.
And he was
That's a very small cell.
Yeah, fed bread and water, and the only thing he had to play with was a carved wooden horse. Yes. And so
kids today are way spoiled. All he had was a carved horse, and he was happy.
I know.
I don't know happy is the right word.
All right, you got me there.
Yeah. So he was mostly in a darkened cell. He would find bread and water next to his bed every morning. Occasionally the water would taste bitter, and drinking it would cause him to sleep more heavily. Because obviously he'd been roofied. And and on such occasions, when he woke up, he'd find his nails had been trimmed and his hair had been cut, and his bed had been changed. And so he was kept alone in this dark little cell, according to himself, for many, many years. And eventually the guy that was keeping him in the cell took him out, and then they went on a little road trip on foot to Nuremberg, where this guy basically took him to the city limits and then cut him loose, and he wandered in the street, and the rest is history. So he's found by the shoemaker, taken to the captain, turned over to the jailer, who keeps him in custody for a while. And he went through a period of several years when he was under the care and tutelage of various people. and he quickly learned to read and write. In fact, suspiciously so, according to some people, because he came in basically being kind of almost a feral child, barely able to speak, unable to read and write. I probably didn't mention that after the captain took him to the police station when he was not able to get a coherent answer out of him about anything. And one of the policemen had this idea to hand him a pen and a piece of paper, and so he wrote his name, Caspar Hauser, on that. Other than that, he was not able to say much other than, I don't know, and I want to be a soldier like my father.
Wait, so somebody took the time to, though not hang out with him, teach him how to sign his name?
Yeah, I know. It's a little weird, isn't it?
That smells a little fishy.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot about it, which is one of the things about the story that's one of the most interesting. Captures so many people's imagination.
Okay, well let's hear what else happened, because I'm still skeptical.
Yeah, well, exactly. There's a lot about it that's still a mystery. But, we're all about solving mysteries. So all of you out there who've been puzzling for decades over this mystery, we're going to solve it for you tonight. So he, as I said, I'm not going to go into great detail about this stuff, about the various people he came under the tutelage of. One of them was an English nobleman named Lord Stanhope, who was a great philanthropist, and who actually, once he took him under his wing, paid his living expenses for the rest of his life, which actually didn't go on for very long. I'll run back a little bit. There was an incident where he was cut in the forehead, and according to him, he said it was the same person, the same guy who took him to Nuremberg.
The person who raised him.
The same man showed up, slashed him with a knife on the forehead, and basically said, "If you leave this city, you are a dead man." It's still kind of ambiguous as to whether this actually happened or whether perhaps he inflicted the wound on himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that. Along about 1829 or so, there began to be speculation, because word got out about Caspar and people came from all over the city to see him because he was such a curiosity. And word got out, a rumor started that he was perhaps royalty, and that perhaps he was actually a prince of the House of Baden. And I'm not a student of European royalty. Apparently, Baden is related to the House of Baden is related to Napoleon, etc.
Oh, okay.
And so
that's a long lineage, or a well-known lineage.
Yeah, and so anyway, apparently there was a prince born in 1812 who died at the age of about 2.5 weeks, and and the story goes that perhaps there was a competing contingent of the family. That because Caspar, if he was indeed the prince, would have been the last surviving line, or the last surviving person in that line, and therefore would have gone over to the father's brother and his descendants. And so the theory is that if Caspar had been that baby, and if they had, say, for example, swapped and found a baby that was already dying of natural causes, do a quick swap, send Caspar off to the sticks or whatever, who cares? The baby dies. And the kingship passes over to, the uncle, Caspar. And so that rumor started about 1829, and it persisted actually for many years. Actually, there were people up in the 20th century doing DNA analysis on what there are believed to be remnants of Caspar Hauser's hair, for example, to see if perhaps he is related to the House of Baden. And the results were inconclusive. It was there's a strong correlation, but not quite strong enough to prove anything. And so anyway, that's where it's at. But
so it's a tenuous theory at best.
Yeah, and it's and it's not supported by some of the other facts, which is that doing a baby swap in the House of Royalty is probably not that easy.
I wouldn't think so.
I would imagine that would be something that they would try to make very hard.
You would think so, yeah. Okay, but anyway, that was a widely believed theory, and so therefore that kind of lends support to this whole thing. That a guy shows up and threatens him if he ever leaves Nuremberg, his life is forfeit, and yada yada yada, and slashes him with a knife. And so anyway, a bunch of stuff went by. He was living with, under the tutelage of various people, many of which he seemed to eventually alienate. And then at the very end, he winds up stabbed in the chest fatally. Took him 3 days to die. But
that's not fun.
No, not really. No. So so December 1833. So this is 5 years, after he was actually found. Comes home with a wound in his chest, and he claims that he was lured to the Ansbach Court Garden in Nuremberg, and that a stranger tried to hand him a purse, and then while handing him the purse, stabbed him in the chest. And the message, there was a message in the purse because the police went to the park and they found it. And the message read, and Hauser will be able to tell you quite precisely how I look and from where I am. To save Hauser the effort, I will tell you myself from where I come, blank, blank. I come from blank, blank, the Bavarian border, blank, blank, on the river, blank, blank, blank. I will even tell you the name, MLO, so initials. So a cryptic message.
Wait, I'm confused. What's the blanks? Were those dashes in the letter, or what's going on there? I'm a little confused because I've seen that, but I've seen something on this story, and that's never made sense to me.
Yeah.
I am blank.
I know.
Is this?
Yeah, are you telling us or not?
I know.
Is this yeah?
To save him the trouble, I will tell you, and now I'm not going to tell you.
I'll tell you. My name is.
Yeah.
I wrote this out ahead of time so that when I got there and I could tell the coast was clear, I was going to write it in myself. It seems weird that there's these pre-made blanks.
Yeah, and so anyway, but again, this deepens the mystery because even though there's a lot of absurdities and inconsistencies, people want to believe what they want to believe, and so a lot of people after he died were saying, oh, he was murdered because he was a rightful prince, and yada yada.
Why was he at the park? Do we know?
He later said that he was tricked into going to the park with the promise of information about his mother. But he didn't say who. I mean, obviously he had 3 days to die, so plenty of time to spill the beans about everything, but he didn't give out any useful information, apparently. He didn't say, for example, whether he was sent a note or somebody told him this in person or what. And so he waited by the artesian well in the park. No one came, so he went across to a monument in the park where a man was waiting for him. They walked together in the freezing cold. The man made as if to give him a document and suddenly stabbed him in the side, puncturing his lung, piercing his liver, and then ran off. He goes back, he staggers back home, saying, mad, stabbed, knife, da-da-da-da, gave purse, go look quickly. They go and they find the purse, and they find this note inside the purse. But this is the thing, is that the note was written, in mirror script. So essentially you hold a piece of paper up to the mirror and you write backwards. So,
okay, I got it.
And it was folded in a way that was apparently characteristic of Caspar Hauser himself.
How was it folded?
It was folded diagonally, so if you, instead of folding it like this...
So a square.
Instead of hot dog or hamburger.
Corner to corner instead of edge to edge. So you fold it diagonally, basically.
Got it.
Yeah, so it was folded in a manner. And so this guy, even though he was a clever huckster, in my opinion, and a very good con man, was not that bright about, covering his tracks when he did those things like forged murder notes. So I'm sorry, we do or do not know if it was just left blank or they just never released that information, or... No, it was left blank.
It was left blank.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And he was stabbed, Joe, you said...
The left chest, left side of the chest.
Left side of the chest, through the lung and into the liver?
Yeah.
Is that a direct or an upward stroke or a downward stroke?
Well, that's the thing that's kind of mysterious about the whole thing, because if indeed it is true that his liver was punctured, as you know, your liver is on the right side of your chest. I mean, it's not all on the right side, but in order to stab somebody through the lung into the liver, you're talking about at least 4 or 5 inches knife, if not longer. And so, is
it an easy way to stab yourself?
Well, that was the thing. The speculation is that he stabbed himself to get attention, and the same thing with the slashing of the forehead incident, where this guy threatened that if he ever left the city of Nuremberg, that his life was forfeit, and that is that he was just trying to keep his little legend alive, because he liked the attention, and also, by the way, that kept people coming to him, like Lord Stanhope, who were benefactors who would actually pay for his expenses and stuff like that, and keep him going.
So essentially, he screwed up, and the first time he slashed himself, it wasn't that deep. So hey, I can do it again, but now I have this knife, and that went way deeper than I expected, and that hurts a lot more.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it that is a little mysterious, though, is because like if you want to like stab yourself. I mean, driving a knife that deep into your body, even by accident, is pretty difficult. I mean, forensic specialists did actually agree that it's entirely possible that he could have inflicted the wound on himself. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, if you're going to puncture your lung and your liver, well, you're going to drive that knife in pretty deep.
Far.
Yeah, so maybe somebody did stab him, but at the same time, there are people around who didn't like Casper because apparently the guy was a really major flaming jerk. And he was widely regarded as a huge liar by the people that knew him very well. So it's like the public who didn't know him well were all enraptured by his story. But the people that actually spent a lot of time with him all uniformly seemed to come away convinced that the guy was a massive liar.
Well, I can see that somebody did it. But I can also see a guy who isn't that smart about things. We've all seen movies where somebody's going to fake that they got beat up, and so they run their head into the door frame and then go, oh, wow, that really hurts more than I thought. Yeah. And I could just see him going, I need to jab this in, but I know that as soon as I stab myself, it's going to hurt, and I'm going to pull it out, and it's not going to be credible enough.
So he's going to slam himself against a wall.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oof. Oh, I shouldn't have used the 18-inch knife. Ow, that's more than I expected.
Yeah.
I can see that happening because people have poor judgment and poor pre-planning about these kind of things. As we well know, you see things like that in the news all the time.
So did they ever find the knife?
No, actually they didn't, and it's actually one of those things too where as he was lying on his deathbed, he was probably thinking, "Wow, I really should have sterilized that blade before I ran."
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, dumbass. Yeah, no, they did find the purse with the note in it, of course. Getting back to the beginning, the letters he carried with him, one of which was from supposedly his mother, the other one was from the guy who raised him in the dark little cell on the ground.
Yeah.
They were written in the same handwriting. So that
what?
Was like, yeah.
Wait. Say that again?
They were written in the same handwriting.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, yeah.
Are those notes still, are they still around at all?
That's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know.
Because if Casper is so nefariously devious, he's so nefarious is right, but so devious about making things for himself, then I would say, well, let's compare the quote-unquote mirror script handwriting letter to the ones that say, I want to be in the cavalry, and see if they're the same handwriting, because that would prove if he did it himself or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the note in the purse, they're not specific about this, but the note that was found had a spelling error and a grammatical error, both of which were fairly typical for him. So the writing wasn't necessarily a smoking gun, but apparently those errors were kind of a little bit of smoking gun. Again, it's hard to say, but it appears to me that the guy, versus just being this peasant kid who's a homeless kid living in the streets of Germany or whatever, and it seemed to work really well for him. Except, his megalomania sort of took over and eventually killed him. He killed himself with the knife.
Accidentally.
Or somebody stabbed him. It could quite be. Maybe somebody just didn't like him and decided to stab him.
When was he stabbed?
December 1833.
So it's December in Nuremberg, which means it's covered in snow.
Cold and snowy.
Okay. Yeah. So they went back to find where he was at and follow his blood trail from where he came from.
Absolutely. They go to the park, and they found his footprints and no other footprints.
Was there paths in the area that were kept up to be clear that he could have been walking on if there was the second person?
Yeah, exactly. Again, the accounts are a little vague on that whole thing. All they say is they found his footprints in the snow and no one else's, which implies to me that if the paths had been cleared, they hadn't been cleared after every snow flurry, and so they were able to find his footprints, but nobody else's, which is why they thought he had stabbed himself.
Well,
that's why other people like this Frank, what's his name that I read years ago.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate. Let's say that the paths were relatively clear, and you only find one set of footprints, and that's because he walked off onto the path, met the person, got stabbed, and walked back. Well, the other person would probably, for a fast getaway, stay. I want to run as fast as I can. Let's not go through 6 inches of snow. Let's just go through a clear path and just hustle out of here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, on all the accounts that I read, nobody gives that amount of detail about whether the paths have been cleared.
It's 200 years ago. Of course not. We're not. The accounts were not as detailed as they are now.
Yeah. So I mean, no, it might be that if you could research it, somebody might have written a very detailed account that actually had that information in it, but I haven't seen it. But it's quite possible.
How old did Casper appear to be? Did he appear to be the age he claimed, or?
They said he appeared to be between the ages of 15 and 18 when he showed up. That's what they thought.
So he maybe looked younger then.
Yeah, and it was in the year 1828, and he had these letters claiming that he'd been born in 1812. So they assumed the letters were true when he was 16. Perhaps he was a little older.
So if he was 16, then according to that account, if he's 16, he died at 21.
Yeah, he died pretty young.
Yeah, that is really young.
It's really young today, yeah.
Thank goodness they gave him beer when he was 16.
I know, they gave him beer and sausage. Dumbass spat it out. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So anyway, it's one of those eternal mysteries, but it persists to this day. They did DNA analyses. Obviously, DNA analysis has not been around for very long. Der Spiegel reported an attempt to match a blood sample from underpants, assumed to have been his, and apparently they were the wrong underpants because in 2002, this was in 96 when Der Spiegel reported this. In 2002, the Institute for Forensic Medicine for the University of Munster analyzed hair and body cells from locks of hair and other clothing that had belonged to him. But the items all matched DNA-wise. They did not match the blood from the 1996 thing, which means that they were using the wrong blood. They compared that to a DNA segment from Astrid von Medinger. I think I pronounced that right. It descended in the female line of Stephanie de Beauharnais. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Who was from the House of Baden. They were not identical, but it was definitely a possibility that there was a relationship between Caspar Hauser and the House of Baden. But
now,
the other hand,
the DNA sample that they were referencing against, was that someone that was alive at the same time or someone in modern times?
This, I don't know. I assume that was somebody in the House of Baden that was actually alive and willing to provide a sample.
So modern times. So we've got 200 years of between for genetics to change, so that would add the mystery or the inconclusiveness.
Yeah, and so there was a relatively high similarity in DNA, not enough to be conclusive. And as far as matching the DNA was Stephanie de Beauharnais, who would have been his mother or the child that was buried, because obviously their remains are known and they could be dug up. And DNA, the House of Baden does not permit that.
Shocking.
I don't think I would permit it either, actually.
There's this urban legend that this guy is related to us. So let's just go ahead and dig up all our old relatives. What the heck?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's an interesting little thing, which is, maybe all that stuff is true, but mostly I think it's probably a fraud, and I think a lot of people bought into it because people want to buy into lurid stuff like that.
So you're convinced he's a sham?
Not 100%, but 95% convinced he's a sham. Yes.
How about you, Devin?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where I come down on this. I think that it's hard for me to imagine someone being so desperate for attention that they would stab themselves that deep, even by accident. But I don't really know where I stand on it. I'd have to do a little more research, I think. Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on it. So I don't say that he was a huckster or sham, but I don't say I'm not convinced that it was the way that Casper said it happened. The only reasons that I say that is I've read some accounts of this, and the things that didn't ring true for me against Casper is the fact that the incident where somebody barged in on him in the bathroom and cut him in the forehead.
Yeah.
The problem that I had with that, and there's other accounts that were similar, where he had a couple of run-ins of getting stabbed or beat up and stuff like that by bad people.
Yeah.
Is that in that particular one where he got his head cut, they followed the blood trail.
Yeah, exactly.
From the bathroom to his room, and then to the cellar where he had gone to hide.
Yeah.
And it's very plausible, and people said, well, he didn't really think this through very well as he cut himself and then said, oh, what am I going to do with the razor? Went back, washed it off, went back to his room, put it in his room, and then went and hid, which seems like poor planning, which a lot of these things seem as if, from the outside, they're very sensational, but once you look at them, it's very poorly planned. Which is somebody who's got this great idea, but they just don't think about how to tie it together, and so it's really loose, and there's nothing credible about it.
Yeah, exactly. The whole idea that, like, say for example, I mean, if I was stabbed or slashed by somebody, I would run to where there were people.
Exactly.
I wouldn't run and hide in a cellar where I'm isolated and I could be stabbed again. It doesn't make sense.
Well, and here's the other problem with that. And this is, again, I've seen this in the accounts, and the accounts, that's the hard part, is the accounts are 200 years old. People are interpreting them because the language is different now than it was then.
Yeah.
But the accounts talk about the fact that he had been in a big argument or been chastised by the people that were currently hosting him in their home. So he's in trouble.
Yeah.
He got in trouble, and he got his hand slapped for doing something wrong and bad, and he wanted to get in everybody's good graces, so I'm going to get attacked, and everybody will love me and hug me and forget about that I did wrong.
Yeah.
It's very... It's like a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old. The cat broke that. I didn't break that. Oh, God, the kitty scratched me, kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually might be evidence for him actually being a part of the royal family, because that's very indicative of inbreeding.
There you go. Well, that's so true. But the thing about it is it's true. What was consistent about him was he was taken in by a lot of different people and families and stuff, and consistently he managed to alienate all of them, every single one of them, because every one of them came away with the impression that he was an incredible liar and a fraud. And there's something else I was going to say. Yeah, this another huge glaring inconsistency, or just whatever you want to call it, is the claim to have been kept for 16 years in a little hole and be fed nothing but bread and water. Well, excuse me, you would die. I mean, seriously.
That's very true.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to survive on that diet. I'm sorry. And so there were just a number of, like I said, he comes into town with 2 letters written in the same handwriting, written by 2 people 16 years apart, but they're in the same handwriting. And so I think this is the strongest. The best answer for this whole thing is that many, many people wanted to believe something that was just outlandishly silly, and
people want to believe,
and they do want to believe, and so even to this day, people believe in this crap.
Well, obviously, we're curious about possibly wanting to believe, because we're still doing stories like this. This is what we do. We all look into this stuff because we find it fascinating. So, we're almost on the same level. It's just that we have the benefit of all this research coming ahead of us.
Super high IQs and just really super good looks. We've got all that you people out there don't have. Sorry.
I get off the model runway, I take off my awesome sunglasses, I shake out my full head of hair, and I walk and I go ahead and I start researching stuff like this, because that's just what my life is.
When I come off the runway, that's not what I do. What I do is I jump in the Ferrari with my intern. My intern is taking notes as I'm speeding on the highway in Malibu, at 90 miles an hour. That's kind of how it works for me.
How about you, Devin? How's it work for you?
I'm not a model, so
you're not?
I don't know.
I thought you were.
No.
Oh, that's it. You're out. You have to be a model.
I thought Oh, I thought we were doing mysteries. I didn't.
If you want to find out more about Caspar Hauser, we will have links on our website, which is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. And also, if you have any more information, any theories, or just complaints. Or
If you are
like
Caspar
that.
Hauser.
Oh, yeah, if you are Caspar Hauser or descended from Caspar Hauser or descended from the House of Baden, then we would like to hear from you. So please send us an email at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, that's it for tonight. We will talk to you guys soon. I am Joe. Good night.
I'm Devin, and good night.
This is Steve, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, joined as always by my lovely co-host.
Devin.
And Steve.
And your normal co-host, Steve.
Oh, he's lovely too.
That wasn't very nice.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm lovely.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna solve another cool mystery this week. Our mystery this week is set in the town of Ketty, California, and of course we're talking about the Ketty UFO incident.
No. Don't get people's hopes up.
No, I know, no UFOs in Ketty, and there might have been, I don't know, but just a brief warning: this is about a multiple murder mystery, and it's kind of gruesome. So,
Super gruesome.
Yeah.
it's
Not
pretty-
nice.
I was not excited doing the research.
Yeah, I
I'll be
don't want
honest.
to.
You should have watched the documentary.
Nah.
Did you read the autopsy reports?
Maybe. Was it in the research?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then yes.